Linda Emslie from Lovlali. Welcome to the lounge room chat at lunchtime. Here we are. It's actually very close to my real lounge room today. I'm not in my healing room. I'm close to my lounge room because I've been joined by Margaret Rollings, who is a local Darwin Naturopath and a very dear friend and colleague of mine, who brings with her a wealth of over 20 years experience in naturopathy. And today I wanted to continue our discussion on detoxing your corporate career by focusing on what we can do when we're under stress and we find that our mood is starting to go on that little downward slide. So we've talked over a few things over the last few weeks that can contribute to stress, things like pushing deadlines, being out of alignment with your personal values. Last week we covered on a very highly emotive topic and we talked about workplace bullying, and that's certainly something that's going to impact quite significantly on your mental health. So there has been discussion recently in the media over the last 8 to 12 months about foods and mood. So in particular, there's been spotlight put on the Italian diet or the Mediterranean diet, and the effect that having these foods and introducing some of these foods can have for your mood. Certainly in relation to depression, it's been found that introducing a more Mediterranean-based diet can influence your mood. Hi Sharon, thanks very much for popping in. Lovely to see you here. But what we wanted to talk about today is the link between the gut and the brain and why gut health is so important for mood, but not just mood, for the health of the whole person. And this is an area I know Margaret is particularly interested in. So she's bringing all of her knowledge and expertise to bear for you. So Margaret, can you tell me what is the link between the gut and the brain?
The most obvious link is the production of serotonin. 75% of our serotonin, which is one of our neurotransmitters that makes us feel safe and secure, which works in our brain, is actually made in our gut. So if the digestive system isn't working properly, very often the amount of serotonin we're producing isn't enough for us to function. If we're under quite a bit of stress for whatever reason, the gut is probably one of the first areas we notice that stress, and that directly affects serotonin production. And that will indirectly then affect our mood. It will also affect how we sleep as well. So the function of the gut is really important, and being able to maintain good gut function. So that's good digestion, so the breakdown of nutrients as well as the absorption of those nutrients and the removal of waste in a timely manner. All of those things make a difference to then how we get our nutrition, but also the other jobs that the gut has to do, and the production of serotonin is one of those. The other thing the gut does is, because it's the one way we get all of our nutrition, if we can't absorb that nutrition, then we can't make all of the things we have to make to help us cope better with our stress. So we get an overstimulation in our adrenal glands, which then affects all kinds of other areas, our hormone system, our nervous system, our ability to think, concentrate, all of those kinds of things. So not just the food we're putting in, but how it actually is then broken down in our gut and utilised in our body is really, really important.
Okay, that's really interesting. You've covered off on a few things there that have been of interest to me over time. Certainly, I'm no expert in this area. I have a fairly broad overview of the human body and the different systems and what they do. And, you know, one of the things that is always associated with gut is elimination. And certainly in all of my education and understanding, the only function that I've really associated with gut is elimination. So it's really great to hear the other things that the gut does. So, you know, when I found out that it actually produces neurotransmitters, it also produces some of the vitamins. Is that correct? Not the vitamins, but
it helps to activate some of them.
Yeah.
It also affects how our body utilises those vitamins and minerals in our body to do the jobs that it needs to do. I mean, stress comes in lots of different forms. It can be emotional, it can be mental, It can be physical if we've injured ourselves from doing, exercise, or if we've not got enough sleep and we're tired. What we put into our bodies makes a huge difference to how our bodies will actually function and how much nutrition gets absorbed. If we're eating too much processed food, we're not eating enough fruit and vegetables, all of those kind of things will make a difference to how the gut works, and therefore how the rest of the body is going to work as well.
Okay. So we've just had a couple more people join us. Hi, Adair and Natalie. Hello. Thank you for popping in. If you have some questions today for Margaret in the general area of gut health and food for moods, that type of discussion, fire away. We're here to answer some questions. Or if there are some broader nutritional questions that you want to put to Margaret, just bear in mind that as a naturopath, she can't do individual assessment and prescription work here. This is just a general discussion on some of the things, some of the tools available out there that can help you manage stress, manage your mood, manage your whole entire well-being when you're under a bit of duress in the workplace. So Natalie has a question. What about meat, please?
Meat or animal product is a really good source of protein. We all need a certain amount of protein because of things called amino acids, which we make some of them, and some of them we need to supplement. And meat is one of the easiest ways to get those amino acids. Amino acids are really important for the building blocks of cells, of individual systems, brain function. There are particular types of amino acids that are required for the making of neurotransmitters in our brain as well. So meat is a really good thing. It's just how much meat and what kind of meat, that's all.
Okay. Welcome, Cheryl. Thanks very much for joining us. And Sharon tells us that she loves meat. So when you say types of meat, what do you mean?
Well, I think there's, when we talk about food and mood, we're talking about wanting to eat whole foods, so clean meat. Things that are heavily processed, that have had additives and preservatives added to them, things that perhaps have been dried with sulfites and nitrates. These kinds of things are not easy for our body to digest, and they're actually better if we want to eat meat that is fresh, that hasn't had too much processing. Cooking is a form of processing, so minimal cooking is always recommended. But we don't need a huge amount of protein. Meat is a really dense protein, and so we only need a small amount. So the palm of your hand is really all you need, and maybe 2 to 3 times a week if you're eating just meat. Eggs are really good for us. There's some research lately that said that, that's showing that 1 egg a day is really good for cardiovascular health. So you don't have to eat just meat. You can eat other animal products as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we've got the production of serotonin. We've got some help with synthesizing some vitamins. Looking more directly at the gut-brain connection, what's going on there? It's not just the production of neurotransmitters, or is it just that?
In part, yes. Also, too, obviously, the absorption of the nutrients, and some of those nutrients from our food go into making other neurotransmitters in the brain and other things for the brain. And so so the absorption of food is one of the other key elements. So that nutrition. The link between the gut and the brain also is related to if our gut isn't working properly, then our mood changes, not just because of serotonin, but because we're in pain, and there's a huge amount of nerves in our digestive system or around our digestive system, so we feel that quite acutely. And so that can affect then also how we're able to think and process information and things like that.
Okay, so we've had a question from Natalie about going vegetarian.
There's nothing wrong. Vegetarian is great. Generally, vegetarian diets are very low or very low acidic diets. They're what I would describe as a more alkaline diet, and they're actually really good for people who have a high level of acidity because they're carrying a lot of stress in their body. Stress causes acidity in our body, and acidity indirectly or directly causes inflammation, which then can cause pain or create other health issues in our body. So a vegetarian diet is very good. Vegetarian diets include animal product like eggs and dairy products or sheep and goat products as well. That's okay. They just don't have they just don't eat meat, that's all, which is a little bit different to a vegan diet. Chicken is fine. There's nothing wrong with chicken. There's nothing wrong with goat either. I would always look at going as clean as possible in terms of chicken, so free range or organic. Goat's great meat. It's kind of in the middle of game and regular meat, and it's very low in fat. So it's a very, very nutritious meat. I suppose our equivalent to kangaroo.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So I have a question from Cheryl about detox. Do you suggest a detox, and if so, how often?
Traditionally, yes, I do. Once a year at least, a proper detox. So there's a lot of detox stuff out there, but I think if we can look after our digestive system by cleaning it out once a year, think about a spring clean. You might spring clean your house once a year. That's pretty much what you're doing with the once a year detox. The time to do it is kind of springish, which I suppose we're coming into now, and detoxifying both your digestive system and your liver is really, really valuable, particularly if you consume large amounts of coffee and alcohol as well.
Okay, so when you say proper detox, what does that entail?
A proper detox is where we're actually seeing clinical change in the gut and also in the liver. So we're seeing very specific nutrients being used to improve function in the digestive system. So making sure that we're passing good, healthy, strong bowel motions. We're doing it every day. We don't have bloating and flatulence. And that we're actually not getting any undigested food in our stools. So we're actually absorbing all our nutrition. A detox should generally take anywhere between, depending on the degree of detox, 2 to 6 weeks to do it properly. And also then supporting liver. So traditionally, naturopathically, we used to describe it as a weed, seed and feed. So that's where you get rid of all the rubbish, you feed the gut and the liver, and then you reseed it with good high-grade probiotics.
Fantastic. So somebody looking at doing a proper detox, as you've just described, would be best getting in touch with a local naturopath and doing it that way?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And so Natalie was saying, yes, that she's looking at inflammation as a key to avoid as she's thinking of detox too. And Adair is saying, what exactly does a detox look like?
Detox includes basically cleaning up the diet. So we look at a very clean diet. So Linda mentioned the Mediterranean diet. One of the reasons why it's such a good diet in relation to mood management is because it's a low inflammatory diet. It's got good oils or good fats in it, and it's basically a whole food diet. So it's clean. There's not a lot of processing going on. You're not eating lots of packaged foods, all of those kinds of things. So it's actually a really good place to start, and then supplementing with particular nutrients depending on what type of detox and how much detoxing needs to happen.
Okay. And Sharon's saying that she removed the 7 most common inflammatory foods for 21 days and lost 6 kilos in 10 days.
That's very cool. Yeah. Very, very cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, those inflammatory foods actually do make us tend to hold on a little bit to some weight.
They do. Well, we retain fluid. Any processed food, we retain fluid. Grains, we retain fluids. That's not to say that we shouldn't eat them, but we should be mindful of how much we're eating, when we're eating them, and what type of grain we're eating.
Yeah. And Natalie's just mentioning that she had leaky gut a long time ago. She's not sure if it has healed, and she's looking into doing a detox, or would you recommend fix leaky gut first?
If you still have leaky gut, I would absolutely look at fixing leaky gut before doing detox, particularly because leaky gut means that you're getting you'll have issues outside of the bowel, which you don't necessarily want to have to deal with through detox. Also, detox can be quite difficult to do if there's a lot of toxins in your system. So if you drink a lot of coffee, if you drink a lot of alcohol, again, recreational drugs, cigarettes, pharmaceutical drugs, a lot of sugar or processed food, all of these things will be detoxed, but your body has to process that. So if you've already got leaky gut, it kind of makes it much more complicated for you, and you feel a lot worse doing it.
Okay, I'd be keen to go and get that sorted before undergoing detox.
Yes.
Okay, and Sharon is saying that she's removed eggs, dairy, soy, corn, sugar, peanuts, and gluten. Fantastic.
Yeah, unless you're allergic to eggs, I don't see why you'd need to remove those. I agree with corn and sugar and soy and dairy. Peanuts and gluten. Gluten absolutely is something that most of us should avoid, not because we're celiac or even because we have a gluten sensitivity, but because it creates inflammation in the gut. That's what its job is. That's what it does. It's trying to elicit a response from the membrane in the gut. So, yeah, avoiding it is a good thing. Very much
fantastic. So, what's the go with eggs? Because I hear a number of people saying to avoid eggs, and then I hear other people saying, no, they're all okay.
Look, there's nothing wrong with eggs. I think the quality of the egg obviously is a question. You have to make sure that you're getting good quality eggs from a nutritional point of view, but they give you an awful lot of nutrition. And if you're not eating a lot of red meat or you're not eating a balanced diet, then eggs are a good way to get a lot of nutrition very effectively. There's no reason why you shouldn't eat eggs other than if you are allergic to them.
Okay.
That's all.
So same rule of thumb for everything, really, as clean as possible, as fresh as possible, and as unprocessed.
Yeah. You know, up here, I think it's really important to eat, because of the more local. I always say to people, eat local. So if it's grown in your area, eat it because it's grown in your area. So, and you live in that area, so nutritionally you get a better outcome. And also seasonally, if you're eating things that are seasonal, nutritionally they're going to be better for you. And we've got more chance of getting more of the antioxidants and the nutrients out of the foods. Things like berries and mangoes and bananas are really, really good. They've got lots of individual kinds of nutrition that are very useful and specific for helping to maintain mood, also give you energy, they're high in potassium, magnesium, all of those kind of things, lots of antioxidants in berries. Blueberries, for example, are probably, other than apples, one of the most effective foods on the planet to eat because they have so much nutrition.
Yeah, absolutely. And Adair's just asking why soy's been getting a bad rap lately.
Again, it's processing and the quality of the soy product. It's got more to do with that than it has the actual than it actually has. Soy has a large amount of soy in the world is genetically modified, so that's where the issue is, rather than the soy product itself. Some people react poorly to soy, but then all of us at some point will react to most things if we're having too much of it. But soy itself, there's nothing wrong with it. It's great for perimenopausal women. It's great for women with estrogen issues. It's a brilliant phytoestrogen, plant-based estrogen. So, you know, as long as we're not overindulging all of the time, it's all about moderation and balance.
Is soy something you'd avoid if you've been diagnosed with breast cancer?
Yes, if the breast cancer is estrogen dominant, yes, absolutely. You'd need to be careful of soy or anything else that is high in phytoestrogens. But the doctors would talk to you about that. But again, you know, each individual case, it varies. Some people, it makes no difference. Other people, it makes a lot of difference.
Okay.
And that's the importance of working out, you know, yourself where you actually fit on that spectrum as well.
Yeah, I think that's really valid what you've just said, that each of us are an individual, and so, you know, a one size fits all approach when it comes to any form of healing and wellness is really not going to cut the mustard. You do need to go and find out exactly what's going on for you to get the right solution just for you. And so Sharon's saying, be aware of what you eat. oh, I've lost your comment. Beware of what you eat. If gluten intolerant, be mindful of grain-fed stock.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, and if you're that sensitive to gluten, yes, you have to be mindful of even eggs. Some chickens are fed grain, particularly the non-free range ones in the cages. You need to be careful of anything like that. The other thing too with gluten is it's not just in food, it's also in makeup, it's in hair care products, skincare products, washing powders. It's prolific. It's one of the fillers that they use. So yeah, you need to be careful with all of those if you're that sensitive.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that you can get gluten in shampoo.
Yes.
Fabulous. Adair's really happy now that she can eat mangoes until the cows come home.
Yep. Great for the nervous system.
Fantastic. And soy makes me sleepy, says Sharon.
Yeah, that would be the estrogen. Sometimes it can make people sleepy. It's actually fine though. Just don't drink it at night time or during the day, I beg your pardon.
And Natalie is talking about a gut health program with colloidal liquid, liver health probiotics. Avoid processed foods, sugar, wheat, gluten, dairy, coffee, and alcohol. Eat raw, clean, non-toxic products on the body and in the house too is important. Yes.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree with that.
Yeah. And I'm just discovering there are more questions and comments. I've just discovered them. Thanks, everyone. Is real coffee better than instant? And what's the problem with coffee?
Yes, that's true. Real coffee is definitely better than instant. Again, instant is more processed. So anything that's more processed, we want to try and avoid. When we're trying to maintain mood, we want it to be as clean as possible. The problem with coffee is it's a stimulant. We do have enzymes to break it down in our liver, but it overworks our liver if we drink too much of it. And as a stimulant, it actually hypes us up, so it pushes our nervous system up, and this then impacts on how our gut functions and how much nutrition we can get through. So the more tense our digestive system is, the harder it is for it to get the nutrients through the gut wall. Coffee itself acts as a laxative as well, so that can sometimes speed up peristalsis, which we don't always want it to do if we're wanting to get absorption happening.
Okay, great. And so Adair's just saying she has a soy decaf a couple of times a week. She gets ribbed about it, but that's okay.
Yeah, look, that's great. I mean, I still drink coffee. I don't drink anything else, but I still drink coffee. You know, we have the enzymes and we have part of our liver is designed to break down caffeine. Coffee is probably the most natural form of caffeine other than tea. Tea's the same as coffee in that respect. The less processed, the better. It really is just personal preference, and minimizing how much we consume, so making sure that we're using the best quality we can afford is the way to go. But if you choose not to have it, that's great.
And yeah, Cheryl's agreeing with that. Gluten is a cheap filler.
Yeah.
Natalie's agreeing with some of the comments made previously. Adair is asking more about colloidal silver.
There's not a lot of there's a lot of anecdotal evidence about colloidal silver in terms from the point of view of that it's really good for the immune system. It's really good at fighting infections, particularly topically, that kind of thing. But there's no real science behind, or no quality science behind colloidal silver. There's a lot of stuff in our industry that we still haven't been able to prove, even though anecdotally we know that it works. I don't have a problem with colloidal silver at all. I think the quality of the colloidal silver is really important. So just make sure you get the best quality you can. But yeah, there's no real reason why you shouldn't use it if you want to.
Fantastic. And Sharon's had to leave us. She's been called off to work with her next client. So thanks for popping in, Shaz. And Adair is saying, is decaf better?
Only if it's water decaffeinated.
Okay, so the processing, it comes back to that processing again.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you best ask your favourite coffee maker, Adair, if they're using water processed decaffeinated coffee. So yeah, see you, Shaz. So now we're getting close to the finish mark. We've had some really fabulous questions come through. If you know of someone who would benefit from hearing this information, please do share the broadcast, invite your friends in to have a listen. Margaret brings with her a wealth of experience, over 20 years in naturopathy, with a special interest focus in gut health in particular. So you've got a really special opportunity here to ask any other questions that are sitting there. I do have one for you though. You did say before about spring being a good time for detox.
Yes.
So obviously you lovely people located in southern states are moving into that beautiful springtime, whereas here in the territory, we're starting to head into the sluggish build-up time where the lymphatic system really starts to clog up. Is that a good time for us to detox?
It is.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
it really doesn't make any difference. It's that time after our winter where we've been and we're preparing for the summer. So it's like the change time. So for us, our build-up is that change time. We're lucky we have mangoes coming in, and they're a great detox fruit for us up here. And they're also a great time for that really hot weather where they've got lots of magnesium, so they help our nervous system. We don't get as many aches and pains if we're consuming that kind of stuff. So down south is the same thing, and I would actively recommend that you go find somebody who specialises in detoxification and have a detox and set it up for once a year. The more we do that traditionally, the more we detox, once a year, the healthier we are. The more we cope with stress, the more our mood improves, the more stable we are, the more resilient we are to a whole bunch of things. If our body stays clean and if we maintain good function and we maintain a nice, clean, healthy environment, we don't get the flus and the colds that are going around. We don't get a lot of other issues. We heal much faster if we hurt ourselves. We sleep better, and we generally feel better and feel like we've got more control in our lives.
Well, that's fantastic. So there's so many more health spin-offs to doing a detox other than just weight loss.
Yeah.
And momentarily improving the health and the feel of your gut. And Cheryl's just asking us, can you talk about skin and cleaning chemicals? Many are so unaware of the absorption through our skin and the endocrine. I imagine that's the effect on the endocrine system.
Yeah, sure, Cheryl. The skin is our largest eliminative organ, so and it's we absorb pretty much everything through that. Other than what we absorb through our digestive system in terms of nutrients and food. It is really important that we are aware of what we're cleaning with. A lot of the everyday regular toxic formulas actually can be absorbed through our skin, and if the body's unable to remove them successfully, what happens is it will break it down to the smallest possible molecule it can get it to, and then it will store it. And so we can see a build-up of chemicals in our bodies. And when I've seen this a few times where people have done really big, major detoxifications where we're looking at heavy metals as well, they actually end up smelling of these chemicals. Every time we dye our hair, every time we put skincare on that isn't natural or has other additives or fillers in it, we little bits of it are stored because we can't safely remove it effectively from our system, and where it is being stored is in the liver. So we mustn't ever forget the liver when we're looking at detoxification in relation to the gut as well.
Okay, and you do hear people talking about the toxic load under your kitchen sink, and there's often reference made to endocrine disruptors. So what's the link there?
Mainly it's the breakdown or how it affects the hormones and the enzymes related to various aspects of our endocrine system. It is individual chemicals will have a direct correlation or a direct effect on say how estrogen binds to a receptor, for example, particularly if there are chemical-based estrogens in that product. Other chemicals, just trying to think of the obvious ones, things like bleach can affect how various vitamins and minerals are bound and utilised in our body, and therefore that will affect how, say, vitamin D is absorbed or activated in our body. It can affect cholesterol levels, and cholesterol is directly related to how we produce hormones. So all of those kind of things. So we need to be really careful about what we're using and how much of it we're using and why we're choosing to use that particular kind of thing. There are so many things naturally that if you go back through all the old books and the things that your parents did, your grandparents did before we had all this chemical activity, that we could easily use. Vinegar, salt, bicarb soda.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all of these kind of things which don't have the same effect in our bodies. But pretty much it's all stored, and it will impact on, hormonally on it. It can affect reproduction, it can affect thyroid function, even brain function.
Okay, so something to really actually pay attention to. Okay, so and Natalie is saying, especially what we are washing our sheets in and then sleeping on for 8 hours, and the clothes we wear daily.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it does pay to have a really close look at what's going on.
Well, this is just observation on my part, but I've noticed with children in particular, the higher chemical use in their families or in their houses, the more likely they are to have developmental issues. I've noticed that up here particularly.
Okay, all right. So we need to be mindful of what we put into our gut. We need to be mindful of what we put on our skin and what we clean the house with.
Yeah, but we don't want to overthink it all either. The more stressed we become, the worse it gets. So stress is probably the thing that underpins all of our poor health and the creation of inflammation in our body. So we need to make sure that we have plenty of tools that we can use to help combat that. So there are wind down things that you can do, not going for the most obvious things like coffee and alcohol, but looking at walking on the beach, meditation, yoga, any kind of sport, swimming, catching up with friends, all those things that we enjoy, which help to de-stress us and help our body to stay stable, means that our resilience is better. Okay. And all those other things we've talked about will work better too.
Fantastic. Margaret, you have supplied us a wealth of information today. I think there'll be a few people coming back through and watching the replay just to pick up all those beautiful gems that you've deposited there for us. We have reached the 30-minute mark, and Natalie's adding grounding to that last bit. Yep, absolutely. A lot of those activities actually are very grounding as well, so that's why they're so beneficial. But absolutely, clearing that static out of your body at the end of the day is really fantastic. Adair is saying she does a lot of walking and that helps heaps. Fantastic. It's really important to find the de-stress activity that supports your need the best. And Natalie's saying, thank you very much. Thank you, Margaret. I agree. Thank you so much for spending time here today and being a part of the Lounge Room Chat at Lovlali. If you'd like to get in touch with Margaret, you can contact her through her Facebook page at Integrated Health Solutions. If I haven't, I can't remember if I've put the link above, but I will put a link there to Margaret's page. So if you want to ask more questions, you can. Please do bear in mind that as a naturopath, Margaret's not in the position to be doing individual assessment and diagnosis and so on, but she may have some suggestions for you about general health care. Do you want to add anything to that?
No. If you're looking for a practitioner, I might actually know one as well where you are, so I'm happy to help there too.
Okay, fantastic. And of course, if you want to connect with me, just pop over to the Lovlali page. And I do have a request. If you'd like some daily inspiration tips from Lovlali, just pop in the comments below inspo, and we'll get a daily tip for you over the next 7 days of how you can start your day with a song in your heart or a smile in your heart. So just pop inspo in the comments below if you'd like to receive those. And Dare is saying, thanks, Margaret. That was fab. Linda, thank you for bringing Margaret to us. Yeah, she's a hidden gem up here in Darwin. We're so blessed that, I'm sorry, Adelaide, she left you and came back to her hometown and brought all her skill back here. So I'm very grateful for one that she's here. Okay, so that's it from Linda in the Lounge Room Chat. being joined by Margaret Rollings from Integrated Health Solutions, and I'll get some inspirational daily tips to you. Unfortunately, I haven't got the behind-the-scenes techno wizardry sorted out, so I'm going to be doing it manually. So keep an eye out on your message box. There will be some stuff coming through. And Natalie's saying she loves Darwin. So next time you're in town, Natalie, let us know.
Indeed.
We'd love to meet you. Okay, that's it from Linda and Margaret today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your brilliant questions. Keep asking your questions. The more information you give yourself that you collect for your well-being, the better off you'll be, and the more you'll be able to detox your corporate career. So I look forward to joining you next Wednesday. Bye for now.
Bye.